I pull into my parents' driveway, the snow falling in gentle flakes against the pristine colonial in suburban Arvada. December in Denver always brings this perfect snow globe effect, picturesque and cold in equal measure, much like the Matthews family Christmas tradition. My hands tremble slightly as I check my lipstick in the rearview mirror. Just tell them about the promotion, I whisper to myself, rehearsing the words I've practiced for days. Creative director at 31. They can't dismiss that. The trunk contains carefully wrapped presents, each one selected with painful precision. Hidden beneath them, a small velvet box burns a hole in my purse. Daniel's ring, purchased on an installment plan I can barely afford. But some things are worth the sacrifice. The front door swings open. Dad stands there, his smile genuine but distracted, already glancing over his shoulder at whatever crisis Mom is manufacturing in the kitchen. Holly, you made it. He pulls me into a quick hug that smells of Old Spice and pine. Before I can respond, Mom appears behind him, critical eyes sweeping over me like searchlights. That green dress washes you out, dear, she says instead of hello. I wish you'd worn the navy one I bought you for your birthday. I swallow the familiar sting. Merry Christmas to you too, Mom. The living room is a museum of Christmas past, the same decorations that have adorned the walls for 3 decades. Cousin Jim and his wife occupy the love seat, while Uncle Ray nurses his usual whiskey by the fireplace. Grandma Eleanor sits in her designated armchair, her eyes crinkling with warmth as she spots me. There's my Holly, she says, extending her hand. I navigate toward her, but Ethan intercepts, dominating the center of the room as he always does. Just secured financing for the North Office expansion, my brother announces, not bothering with a greeting. Orthopedic surgery is about to become the most profitable specialty in Colorado, mark my words. Chloe materializes beside him, designer handbag swinging from her wrist. Speaking of profitable, the firm made me senior associate last month. She extracts business cards from her wallet, passing them around like communion wafers. Youngest female senior associate in the history of Bergman and Walsh. I place my handmade family scrapbook on the coffee table. Hours of work, collecting photos, writing captions, preserving memories. Mom glances at it, then nudges it aside to make room for Ethan's medical journal. From her corner, Grandma Eleanor catches my eye and offers the slightest shake of her head. She sees everything, always has. Remember when you were 10? The memory surfaces unbidden as I accept a glass of wine from Dad. Mom standing in my bedroom doorway, pointing to Ethan's straight-A report card. Why can't you be more like your brother? High school graduation. My name called after receiving honors in marketing and design. The audience's applause drowned out by Mom's excited whisper to her friend. Ethan just got his medical school acceptance letter this morning. College graduation, marketing degree in hand. It's not a real career, honey, Dad had said gently, but it'll do until you find something permanent. Assess. Then the pattern began. First, Mom calling about their broken furnace during the coldest February on record. We're a little short this month. My first real paycheck, sliced in half to cover their repair. Later, huddled in Mom's car, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper after I'd written another check. Don't tell anyone about this. It would embarrass your father. I return to the present as Dad carves the turkey with surgical precision, his hands steady and sure in a way mine never are at these gatherings. The perfect slices fall onto Wedgwood china as relatives pass serving dishes around the table. My wine glass is nearly empty when I clear my throat. Daniel and I are engaged. The words hang in the air. The only sound is Grandma Eleanor's soft clapping, her weathered hands creating gentle applause in the suffocating silence. Mom sets her wine glass down with deliberate care, the crystal making a sharp sound against the table. Her mouth forms a thin line before she speaks. Well, she says, each word measured and cold. I suppose someone had to take you. You're the most useless child we have. The table falls silent. Ethan studies his plate. Chloe examines her manicure. Dad's knife pauses mid-slice. I wait for the familiar burn of tears, the instinct to flee to the guest bathroom and compose myself. It doesn't come. Instead, an unexpected calm washes over me, like stepping into an eye of a storm I've been battling my entire life. My phone sits beside my plate. I pick it up, open my banking app, and begin scrolling through transaction after transaction. Mom watches with narrowing eyes as my thumb flicks upward through months of financial history. Dad notices the change in my posture, the straightening of my spine, the slight lift of my chin. He sets the carving knife down, confusion etched across his face. "Holly?" he ventures. I look up, meeting Mom's gaze directly for what feels like the first time in years. "Then stop calling when you need money," I say, my voice steady and clear in the Christmas dinner silence. I can almost hear the foundation crack beneath us, the family hierarchy shifting like tectonic plates. Grandma Eleanor's smile spreads slowly across her face as the dining room table becomes a battlefield, with my small revolution finally declared. I scroll through my banking app, the blue light illuminating faces around the Christmas table. The silence feels like a physical weight, pressing down on shoulders that have carried financial burdens far too long. "Let me show you something interesting," I say, my voice steadier than I expected. December 3rd, $1,150 to Matthews Leasing. My finger taps the screen. "That's for your Lexus, isn't it, Mom?" Margaret's face tightens. Thomas glances between us, fork suspended halfway to his mouth. November 15th, $2,750. I look at Dad. "Your knee surgery deductible? Remember how worried you were about meeting it before year-end?" His eyes drop to his plate. October 2nd, $3,200. My gaze shifts to Chloe. Bar exam prep course, premium package. Chloe's cheeks flush pink against her cream blouse. August 24th, $4,500 wire transfer. I turn to Ethan. "Those lingering student loans that were keeping you from qualifying for your practice loan." Grandma Eleanor's hand covers mine briefly, a warm anchor in this storm of my making. 3 years of transactions. $42,000. The numbers burn on the screen like accusatory eyes, and not a single repayment. Margaret's wine sloshes dangerously close to the rim of her glass. "Families help each other. That's what we do." "Why?" "No, Mom. Families support each other. This was exploitation." "You could have said no if it was such a burden," Chloe snaps, her voice high and defensive. "Nobody forced you." A laugh escapes me, surprising even myself. "You're right. Nobody held a gun to my head. Just emotional manipulation and the promise of finally being worth something to this family." Mom's eyes narrow to slits. "What exactly are you implying?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts." I scroll through another month of transactions. My lease renewal depends on the bonus I saved. "The bonus you asked for half of last week for the bathroom remodel." Thomas looks genuinely shocked. "Margaret, you didn't mention—" "Daniel and I are taking night courses toward our MBAs." I continue, the words flowing now like a river breaking through a dam. "His teacher's salary barely covers our current expenses. This engagement ring?" I hold up my left hand where the modest diamond catches the light. "Installment plan. Because every time I save, one of you has an emergency." Margaret slams her palm on the table, rattling the silverware. "How dare you air our private business? When I tell everyone what you've done." "What I've done?" The question hangs between us. What exactly have I done, Mom? Supported this family while being treated like I'm nothing? The realization washes over me, crystal clear amid the wreckage of Christmas dinner. "I wanted you to see me as worth something." My voice softens, not from weakness but from the strange power of finally understanding. "But my worth was never going to come from you, was it?" I close the banking app with a decisive tap, the screen going dark. My purse sits beside my chair, and I gather it with careful precision, each movement deliberate. "The Bank of Holly is officially closed," I announce, a genuine smile spreading across my face for the first time all evening. Grandma Eleanor's whispered, finally, cuts through the stunned silence. Her weathered hands grip her napkin, eyes gleaming with something like pride. No dramatic exit needed, no tears or slam doors. Just the quiet dignity of walking away from the table, away from patterns established long before I had the language to name them. The front door closes behind me with a gentle click. The snow falls steadily now, covering the driveway in a fresh white blanket that my footprints disturb as I walk toward my car. Footsteps crunch behind me. Dad follows, his cardigan insufficient against the December cold. "Holly, wait." His breath forms clouds in the frigid air. Through the front window, I see Grandma Eleanor's firm grip on Mom's arm, preventing her from following. Inside, family members remain frozen in tableau around the abandoned turkey. My phone buzzes with a text notification. "Cousin Laura, call me tomorrow. I saw everything." "I'll talk to you later, Dad," I say, unlocking my car door. "Not tonight." The drive home feels strangely peaceful. No tears blurring my vision as I navigate the familiar streets. For the first time in years, I've stood my ground. The sensation is foreign, almost uncomfortable in its newness. Daniel waits in our apartment, understanding etched across his face before I even speak. A bottle of wine breathes on the counter, 2 glasses ready. "Your mom called," he says, taking my coat. 3 times. I didn't answer. I pull out my phone, switch off notifications with a decisive swipe. First peaceful Christmas night in years. Daniel pulls me close, his teacher's sweater rough against my cheek. "I've been waiting for you to see what I see." A text from Rebecca pops up before I silence the phone completely. "Guest room ready just in case. Proud of you." Later, in bed beside sleeping Daniel, I stare at the ceiling. My holiday bonus remains untouched in savings. The weight of broken family relationships settles into midnight reflection, bittersweet but no longer crushing. Somewhere between liberation and loss, I find an unexpected moment of peace. The Bank of Holly is closed, and for the first time, I'm keeping the assets for myself. 2 days later, Margaret's email arrives at 6:43 a.m. on a Tuesday. I stare at my phone, still wrapped in mourning blankets, as the message loads with its lengthy list of recipients. Extended family, friends, even a few of Ethan's colleagues. The subject line reads, "Concerning Holly's betrayal." My stomach turns to concrete as I scan her carefully crafted paragraph about my shocking Christmas behavior and abandonment of family values. The words slice through my morning calm like paper cuts, small but surprisingly painful. "After all we've sacrificed," she writes, "our daughter has chosen selfishness over family loyalty." Daniel's arm wraps around my waist. "You knew this was coming," he whispers into my hair. "Remember what Dr. Levinson said in therapy. Their reaction isn't your responsibility." The phone buzzes again. Chloe this time, her name flashing on my screen like a warning light. "Holly, how could you?" Her voice breaks with theatrical precision. "Mom can barely get out of bed. I've had to take a personal day from the firm. She keeps asking what she did wrong." I press the phone to my ear, listening as Chloe describes calling our mutual friends, her voice dropping to a tearful whisper. "Everyone's shocked by how you've abandoned us." That night, Dad calls. The familiar ringtone jolts me awake at 11:37 p.m. "Your mother doesn't know I'm calling," he says, his voice smaller than I remember. She's having a hard time, Holly." "Dad, I just want to understand what happened at Christmas. You've always been our rock." The truth hovers on my tongue. I was never their rock. I was their ATM. Later that week, my phone lights up with a notification from the Denver Business Journal. Matthews named youngest creative director at Altitude Marketing. The article mentions my innovative approach to client retention and remarkable industry trajectory. My office fills with congratulatory emails while my personal inbox remains a battleground of family allegations. "You should see this," Daniel says one evening, sliding a spreadsheet across our kitchen table. "We've just returned from meeting with his financial advisor, who outlined investment options I'd never considered possible before. Options that exist only because I stopped bleeding money into my family's accounts." What am I looking at? Every loan you've given your family in the last 3 years. Dates, amounts, supposed purposes. Daniel's finger traces the total at the bottom. $42,635. I blink at the number, at once both smaller and larger than I'd imagined. Small enough to wonder where it all went, large enough to have been the down payment on a home. When cousin Laura's wedding invitation arrives, I decline without explanation. The power in that single checkbox, regretfully unable to attend, feels like a small revolution. Thursday's lunch hour finds me at Copper Kettle, my favorite downtown cafe. The spring sunshine streams through plate glass windows, warming my favorite corner table as I spread marketing briefs beside my sandwich. My phone sits face down, a newly established boundary. The cafe door swings open, bell chiming softly. I don't look up until I sense someone hovering at my table. Mom stands there, Chloe half a step behind. Mom's eyes are rimmed red, her makeup carefully applied to enhance the appearance of exhaustion. Chloe clutches her designer handbag like a shield. "Holly," Mom says, her voice pitched just loud enough to turn heads. "We need to talk." My throat tightens. The cafe, my sanctuary, my lunch break escape suddenly feels like a trap. They've chosen a public setting deliberately, knowing I can't escape without creating a scene. Mom slides into the chair opposite mine without waiting for an invitation. Chloe hovers, then sits. The briefs between us become an inadequate barrier. How could you do this to your family? Mom's voice breaks, the tears appearing on cue. After everything we've done for you. Dad's knee is getting worse, Chloe adds, leaning forward. The doctor says he needs another procedure. Is that what you want? For him to suffer because you're being selfish? I lift my coffee cup, taking a slow, deliberate sip. The warm liquid steadies me as I set the mug down with a soft click against the table. I love you both, I say, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice, but love doesn't require sacrifice. Mom's eyes widen. This isn't the script she expected. Dad's health isn't dependent on my bank account, I continue, and we both know his insurance covers 80% of any procedure. You don't understand, Mom begins, but I cut her off with a raised hand. I understand perfectly. You're not here because you miss me. You're here because you miss my money. The cafe manager approaches, concern etched across her face. Everything okay here, Miss Matthews? Your usual table is always reserved for you. Everything. I nod, grateful for the interruption and the unexpected ally. Everything's fine, Vera. My mother and sister were just leaving. Mom's mouth opens in shock. This isn't how our confrontations normally end, with me still seated, composed while she's dismissed. I reach for my wallet, counting out bills for 3 coffees, and place them deliberately on the table between us. This is the last bill I'll pay for you, I say quietly. As they leave, I notice Rebecca at a corner table, her phone positioned to capture the entire exchange. She gives me a thumbs up before returning to her laptop. That evening, my office implements visitor screening protocols after I explain the incident to my supervisor. Family drama shouldn't impact our workflow, she says matter-of-factly, updating the front desk security list. The weekly lunches with Grandma Eleanor become my sanctuary. I've waited 30 years to see you stand up for yourself, she tells me, buttering her roll with precise movements. Your grandfather would be proud. Daniel's colleagues from school send encouraging texts after hearing about the coffee shop confrontation. Cousin Laura calls with her own stories of family financial pressure, confessing she's been on the receiving end of similar demands. The knock at my apartment door comes unexpectedly on a Tuesday evening. The peephole reveals Dad standing alone in the hallway, his shoulders slumped under his worn canvas jacket. Can I come in? He asks, eyes darting down the corridor as if afraid of being seen. I hesitate before opening the door wider. He sits awkwardly on our couch, hands clasped between his knees. I never knew, he says finally. How much you were paying, I mean. Mom didn't tell you? Mom didn't tell you? He shakes his head, then reaches for the folder he brought. I found your spreadsheets, the ones you left at Christmas. He opens it, revealing organized columns of numbers. She told me these were just small birthday gifts you'd given us. I sit beside him, turning pages to show the real amounts. His face crumples as he sees the total. I'm going back to work, he says suddenly. Full-time engineering again. Peterson's firm has an opening. Dad, you don't have to. I do. His eyes fill with tears as he takes my hand. I failed you as a father, Holly. I let this happen. Later that week, I start a journal dedicated to family interactions. Each call, text, and confrontation documented with clinical precision. Financial records organized by month and purpose. Text messages backed up to secure cloud storage. I create an email folder labeled Family Boundaries and file away every message from Mom and Chloe. The very act of organization feels like reclaiming power. Our wedding planning proceeds without the financial strain I'd expected. The venue deposit clears without emptying my account. The caterer's contract doesn't require me to skip lunch for a month to afford it. When the engagement party invitations go out, 2 names are conspicuously absent from the guest list. Dad calls to confirm he'll attend. Grandma Eleanor promises to bring her famous lemon squares. The evening before the party, my doorbell rings. The security camera Daniel installed shows Mom standing outside, clutching a large manila envelope to her chest. My hand hovers over the doorknob. Behind me, our apartment glows with pre-celebration warmth. Daniel arranges appetizer platters in the kitchen, humming softly. The doorbell rings again, more insistent this time. My fingers curl around the cold metal of the knob as I weigh the choices before me. I open the door but position myself firmly in the threshold, blocking entry. The last boundary I have left. Holly. Her voice carries that familiar note of wounded dignity. May I come in? I'm preparing for my engagement party tomorrow, I say, not moving. What's this about? She extends the envelope with a trembling hand. I found these while cleaning out the attic. I thought you might want them. I accept the package, my curiosity winning over caution. Inside are childhood photographs. I've never seen me at 6 blowing out birthday candles, 10-year-old me clutching a science fair ribbon, teenage me in my first formal dress. Remember how happy we were? Mom's voice softens, eyes misting strategically. Before all this, unpleasantness. I thumb through the photos, feeling that old familiar pull, that hunger for proof that I belonged. The family is falling apart, Holly. Her hand reaches for my arm but stops short when I step back. Your father is devastated. Ethan barely speaks to us. Chloe cries herself to sleep. I say nothing, which unsettles her more than any response. Dr. Williamson has agreed to host a family counseling session next Tuesday. She produces a business card from her purse. Everyone's committed to attending. Even Grandma Eleanor thinks it's a good idea. I recognize the manipulation instantly. Grandma would never. It's the same tactic Mom used when I was 16, convincing me Dad had approved my babysitting the neighbor's kids 3 nights a week, money that somehow always ended up covering Chloe's dance lessons. Thank you for the memories, I say, tapping the envelope against my palm, but this doesn't change anything. Holly, please. I appreciate you thinking of me. My voice stays measured, something new I'm still getting used to. I'll consider the counseling, but right now I need to prepare for my engagement party. Her mouth tightens at the mention of the event she wasn't invited to. Your father misses you. Dad knows where to find me. He's welcome anytime. I begin closing the door, slowly but firmly. I need to go now. The door clicks shut, and I lean against it, breathing deeply. No tears, no racing heart, just quiet certainty. Daniel emerges from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. You okay? I hand him the envelope. Trip down memory lane, courtesy of Margaret Matthews. We spread the photos across our coffee table. Daniel sits cross-legged on the floor beside me, studying each image with historian's eyes. Notice anything? He asks after a while. I shake my head, still caught in memories of the moments captured. His finger points to photo after photo. You're always on the edge. Here, Christmas morning, Ethan and Chloe center stage unwrapping presents. You're practically off frame. Your high school graduation, you're half hidden behind your dad. Family vacation, you're taking the picture instead of being in it. I stare at the evidence arranged before me, patterns emerging like constellations. And this one. Daniel taps a photo of me at 16, standing beside Mrs. Peterson's twins. Isn't this when you started babysitting? 3 nights a week, $20 per night. The memory crystallizes. Mom said they needed help at the time. Which became Chloe's dance competition fees. Daniel's voice holds no judgment, just quiet observation. Which became your parents' anniversary trip. Which became the Bank of Holly. I gather the photos, seeing them now for what they truly are, not treasured memories but evidence of systematic exclusion. I reach for my laptop. I'm starting a new album, one that begins with our engagement. Daniel kisses my forehead. Perfect first entry. The engagement party transforms our small backyard the next evening. String lights crisscross above patio furniture borrowed from Rebecca's parents. Colleagues from the marketing firm mingle with Daniel's teacher friends. Champagne flutes catching golden sunset light. I'm helping Grandma Eleanor to a chair when a ripple of tension sweeps through the gathering. Chloe stands at the garden gate, Ethan hovering uncomfortably behind her. Family should be invited to engagement celebrations. She announces loudly, striding into the yard like she's entering a courtroom. Conversations pause. Glasses freeze mid-sip. All eyes track the unfolding drama. Daniel's hand finds the small of my back, steady and warm. I've got this if you need me to. I shake my head. I'm good. Chloe reaches us just as Dad appears through the garden gate, looking both embarrassed and determined. What are you doing here? I ask quietly. We're still your family, Chloe says, voice rising. You can't just cut us out because... This isn't the place, Dad murmurs, but she ignores him. Rebecca moves protectively toward me, champagne bottle poised like a weapon. Daniel's father taps his glass for a toast, unaware of the brewing storm. To Holly and Daniel, Two extraordinary teachers, one of history and one of boundaries. Quiet laughter ripples through the gathering. Family should come first, Chloe interrupts, tears brimming. Before careers, before fiancés, before... This is about Holly's future. Grandma Eleanor's voice cuts through the tension like a knife through butter, which is exactly what family should celebrate, not sabotage. Emiso. The brutal simplicity of her words silences everyone. My colleagues exchange glances, witnessing firsthand what I've tried to explain in break-room conversations. Thomas. Chloe appeals to our father. Tell her this isn't right. Tell her we're leaving. Dad looks at me, really looks at me, perhaps for the first time in years. Then he sets his glass on a nearby table and straightens his shoulders. I'm staying, he says quietly. Chloe's face crumples. She spins on her heel and storms out, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Ethan remains frozen in place, his expression unreadable. The party gradually resumes, though now peppered with whispers. Mom's absence becomes a topic of speculation that I neither confirm nor deny. Later, as dusk deepens into night, Ethan approaches me by the dessert table. Could we talk? He asks, hands jammed in his pockets. We move to a quiet corner of the yard. He pulls an envelope from his jacket and hands it to me. I never realized what was happening, he says, voice low. Not until Dad showed me your spreadsheet. Inside the envelope is a check for the exact amount I paid toward his student loans, plus interest. I'm also taking over Dad's medical bills going forward, he continues, starting with the physical therapy for his knee. I study my brother's face, searching for the competitive edge that defined our childhood interactions. It's absent, replaced by something that looks remarkably like shame. Why now? I ask. Because I saw what it cost you. His eyes meet mine. And because for the first time, I saw what it cost Dad to let it happen. We talk for 20 minutes, our first genuine conversation in years. That night, Dad texts that Chloe called him in tears. The next morning, Ethan emails that he's refused to support Mom's version of events when she called demanding he take sides. 3 cousins and an aunt reach out directly to me, instead of filtering through Mom. Dad mentions he's starting financial counseling. And in a final irony that would be funny if it weren't so sad, Rebecca reports from her mother's bridge club that Margaret Matthews has stopped attending social gatherings, claiming illness when the real ailment is the shifting of support systems she once controlled with absolute authority. The photos Mom brought sit in a new album now, labeled The Past, but they're contextualized with my spreadsheets, my documentation, my truth. Beside it sits a thicker album labeled The Future, beginning with pictures from an engagement party where I stand firmly in the center of every frame. Weeks later, the wedding invitation sits on my desk, cream-colored cardstock with golden lettering, no mention of the mother of the bride. 6 weeks of planning without Margaret's input, and I've never felt more at peace with a decision. My phone vibrates again. The 3rd time in an hour. Holly, please call. My blood pressure is through the roof. Mom's text glows on the screen, a familiar manipulation that once would have sent me rushing to her side. I set the phone face down and return to my seating chart. Daniel appears in the doorway, his face tight with concern. Your dad called. Says your mom's really struggling with being excluded. She's not excluded, I remind him, tapping my pen against the chart. She's just not in charge. I know, but... But what? I look up, meeting his worried eyes. Your dad says this might be her last chance to make memories with you. As your mother. The old guilt rises like floodwater, threatening to drown my resolve. I close my eyes, counting backward from 10, a technique my therapist suggested. She's 58, and perfectly healthy, except when she needs leverage. I say finally. This is exactly what she did before my graduation, my promotion party, and every important moment of my life. Daniel nods, understanding dawning in his eyes. He's caught between supporting me and the natural desire for peace, just as Dad has been for 30 years. Later that evening, Daniel's mother calls, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. Holly, dear, I ran into your mother today at Williams-Sonoma. My stomach tightens. Let me guess, a completely accidental meeting? She was quite upset, said she's being excluded from her only daughter's wedding. A pause. Is everything all right between you two? I explain as simply as I can, omitting the financial details but emphasizing the boundaries I've established. By the time we hang up, she sounds uncertain but supportive. Daniel watches me from across the kitchen. She got to my parents. That's just the beginning. I say, surprising myself with how calm I feel. Chloe texted earlier. 3 photographers suddenly can't make our date, despite signed contracts. He frowns. That's not a coincidence. No, I agree. It's war. The next morning brings worse news. Our venue coordinator calls, apologetic but firm. There's been a catastrophic plumbing issue at the hall. We have to cancel all events for the next 3 months. Officially, we've lost our venue. I sit in stunned silence as Daniel takes over the call, his teacher's voice steady and practical as he asks about deposits and recommendations. When he hangs up, I whisper what we're both thinking. My mother. You can't know that for sure, he says, but his eyes tell me he believes it too. That night, I curl into myself on our sofa, watching as Daniel makes calls, sends emails, attempts to salvage what's left of our wedding plans. Maybe I should just give in. I say finally, the words bitter on my tongue. Let her help with the wedding. It would be easier. Ka. Rebecca appears in our doorway 20 minutes later, summoned by Daniel's SOS text. She drops onto the couch beside me, her face fierce with determination. This is exactly why you stood up to them, she reminds me. The moment you show weakness, they pounce. She pulls out her laptop. My client owns a vineyard outside Boulder. Small, private, and available because their daughter's wedding was last weekend. 3 days later, we stood on a hillside overlooking rows of grapevines. The sun bathes everything in golden light, and a small stone building with a red roof nestles against the hillside. It's perfect, I whisper, and for the first time in weeks, the tightness in my chest eases. My marketing colleagues rally around me, their industry connections securing last-minute vendors. I spend one entire evening addressing invitations by hand, each one carefully selected. When I reach the envelopes for Mom and Chloe, I include a note card that took me hours to compose. I would welcome your presence at our wedding under these conditions. Respect my boundaries, cause no drama, attempt no control. These terms are non-negotiable. With love, Holly. The wedding day arrives wrapped in sunshine. Dad walks me down the aisle, his steps steadier than they've been in years. His engineering job has returned color to his face and confidence to his posture. Grandma Eleanor sits in the front row, occupying the space traditionally reserved for the mother of the bride. Mom and Chloe sit 3 rows back, both wearing expressions of careful neutrality. Daniel's parents embrace me with genuine warmth before the ceremony, his mother whispering, "We're so proud to welcome you to our family." I don't cry until Daniel reads his vows, his voice steady as he promises to stand beside me through whatever comes. Your strength has taught me what real love looks like, he says, and I believe him. At the reception, I've placed my career award from last month's industry dinner on a small table near the guest book. Beside it, tucked into our wedding album, is the spreadsheet summarizing the financial history between my family and me, a record, not a weapon. During the father-daughter dance, Dad whispers, "I've never been prouder of you, Holly." Later, I find a moment alone with Mom near the dessert table. She looks smaller somehow, less commanding in her carefully chosen navy dress. "I forgive you," I tell her quietly, "but I won't forget." She opens her mouth, likely to protest, but I continue before she can speak. "My home and my finances are off limits to you from this day forward. That's not negotiable." Something shifts in her eyes, a realization that her old tactics won't work anymore. For perhaps the first time in my life, she looks at me with something approaching respect. "I was wrong about you," she says finally. The closest thing to an apology I'll ever receive, but it's enough. During the sister dance, a tradition I created just for today, Chloe leans in close. "I'm sorry," she whispers, the words almost lost in the music. "For everything." I nod, accepting but not absolving. Some relationships take years to rebuild, and we're only at the foundation. Across the room, I watch Dad laughing with Daniel's father, his shoulders relaxed, no longer carrying the weight of keeping peace between warring factions. Mom sits with Grandma Eleanor, their conversation clearly strained but civil. The old hierarchy has crumbled, replaced by something new and uncertain. I'm not cruel in my victory. I don't need to be. The power lies in my smile as I dance with my husband, in the knowledge that I've claimed my life as my own. Not through dramatic gestures or scorched earth, but through the quiet, unshakable power of boundaries drawn in love and maintained with conviction. 3 months later, the paint hasn't even dried on our modest brick bungalow, but it already feels more like home than anywhere I've lived before. Daniel rests his chin on my shoulder as I hang the MBA acceptance letter on our refrigerator, securing it with a magnet shaped like the Colorado state flag. Creative director by day, MBA student by night, he says, pressing a kiss into my hair. How did I get so lucky? I lean back into him, savoring the weight of his arms around my waist. The industry newsletter called it a well-deserved promotion for one of Denver's rising marketing stars. They're not wrong. His voice carries that unmistakable pride that still catches me off guard appreciation without expectation. The doorbell chimes, and I don't flinch or rehearse responses in my head. Those habits faded months ago, replaced by a steadiness I'm still getting used to. Dad stands on our porch, holding a cardboard box that smells like cinnamon and butter. Made it myself, he says, offering up his homemade apple crisp. Eleanor supervised. Our weekend brunches have become something of a tradition. Dad and Grandma Eleanor at our dining table, sharing stories over coffee and pastries. Sometimes we talk about Mom and Chloe. Sometimes we don't. Either way, the conversation flows, without the undercurrent of obligation that used to poison every family gathering. How's the financial planning course? I ask Dad, as he settles at our kitchen island. Turns out I have a knack for budgeting when I actually try. He laughs, the sound fuller than I remember from childhood. Paying my own bills feels right. Should have done it decades ago. Later, as December snow dusts our front yard, I slip into the emerald green dress hanging in our closet. The fabric catches the light differently now, or perhaps it's just that I wear it differently, without the weight of anticipated criticism. Beautiful, Daniel says from the doorway. I don't argue or deflect. Thank you. Our first Christmas in the new house bears no resemblance to the holidays of my past. We've created our own traditions: cinnamon rolls for breakfast, presents opened slowly with Christmas jazz playing in the background, no rigid timeline or performative perfection. When I open the door for Dad's arrival, I don't brace myself. I don't calculate how much money I might need to spend to earn his approval. I simply welcome him into our home. Merry Christmas, Holly. He hands me a small package wrapped in Sunday comics, his new signature style since he started living on his own terms. The word no comes easily these days. 2 letters that used to feel impossible to pronounce now slip from my lips without hesitation when Chloe calls about just a small loan. I no longer justify my boundaries with lengthy explanations. My worth isn't measured by what I provide. In therapy last week, monthly sessions now instead of weekly, doctor. Patel nodded as I described a recent industry award. Notice how you didn't once mention whether your family would be impressed, she observed. Ethan called yesterday, genuinely curious about my latest campaign. Chloe found a second job to cover her credit card debt. And Mom. Well, Mom is learning that respect cannot be demanded, only earned. Last Tuesday, Jessica, a junior copywriter at the agency, lingered after our team meeting, her expression a mirror of my former anxiety. My parents expect me to fund my brother's startup, she confessed. Instead of platitudes, I shared my story without bitterness, then gave her the book that changed everything for me. Boundaries, with my inscription inside. Some cycles deserve to be broken. The family scrapbook sits on our coffee table, no longer a desperate plea for validation. New pages chronicle our wedding. This house, professional milestones. The final photo shows Dad, Grandma Eleanor, and me at Thanksgiving, genuine smiles replacing stiff poses. The remaining pages wait empty, labeled simply, future memories. When the invitation to Christmas Eve dinner went out to Mom, it came with clear conditions: respect, authenticity, boundaries. Her careful navigation of this new terrain, asking before offering advice, acknowledging Daniel's contributions, thanking us for hosting, reveals a fragile truce worth nurturing. In our family photo, everyone stands in their proper place, but now, that place is earned through love, not obligation. The Bank of Holly closed permanently, and in its place, something more valuable emerged: a life measured by joy instead of usefulness. On Sunday afternoon, I stare at the scratches on my parents' kitchen table, tracing my finger along a particularly deep groove I remember making when I was 12. The wood feels warm and familiar beneath my touch, worn smooth by years of family dinners, homework sessions, and uncomfortable conversations, just like this one. $25,000, all of it. Mom's voice slices through the room. She sits directly across from me, her back rigid against the chair, her eyes fixed on my face with an intensity that makes my stomach clench. Barbara stands behind her, arms folded across her chest, wearing what I've come to recognize as her concerned big sister expression, the one she practices in mirrors when she thinks no one is looking. Dad stares at his folded hands, his wedding ring glinting dully in the afternoon light filtering through the kitchen window. He won't look at me. He hasn't since I walked through the door 30 minutes ago for what they called a family meeting. My heart pounds against my ribs as the realization hits me. This isn't a meeting. It's an ambush. It's a family venture. Mom continues, her voice taking on that rehearsed enthusiasm she uses when she's trying to sell something. A real opportunity that could change everything for all of us. Barbara nods, right on cue. We've been planning this for months, Aspen. And we thought, wouldn't it be nice to finally include my little sister? She smiles, showing too many teeth. You're always saying you want to be more involved in family decisions. I swallow hard, trying to process what they're asking. The money they're referring to took me 5 years of double shifts and careful budgeting to save. 5 years of saying no to vacations, new clothes, even dinner with coworkers. So I provide all the money, I say slowly. And you, handle everything else? Mom waves her hand dismissively. We have the connections, the business experience. You've always been better with, well, following directions. She laughs lightly, as if she's paid me a compliment. And I would get a percentage. Barbara jumps in. Obviously smaller than ours since we're doing all the work, but still. The unspoken threat hangs heavy in the air between us. After everything we've done for you, I feel the weight of their expectations pressing against my chest, making it hard to breathe. But underneath, something else stirs, something that wasn't there a month ago. A month ago. Before Aunt Margaret's unexpected visit. I remember standing in my tiny apartment kitchen, washing dishes while Aunt Margaret dried them. Her voice dropped to a whisper, even though we were alone. There's something you need to know about why your mother calls you the mistake. The memory of her words burns in my chest. How Mom had been preparing for her big career break when she found out she was pregnant with me. How she blamed her subsequent business failures on having to rush back to work. How I became the living embodiment of her resentment. Your whole life, Aunt Margaret had said, drying a plate with slow, careful movements. She's been making you pay for something that was never your fault. I return to the present moment, aware that my unusual silence has created a new tension in the room. Normally, I would be nodding, agreeing, promising to help however I could. But today, I simply sit, neither agreeing nor refusing. When would you need the money? I ask quietly. Mom and Barbara exchange glances, a quick flash of victory passing between them. They think they have me. They always have before. In 3 weeks, Mom says, reaching for her phone. I can give you the account information right now. Only Dad seems to notice something has changed. He glances up briefly, his eyes meeting mine for the first time since I arrived. I see a flicker of something. Sadness? Recognition? Whatever it is, it vanishes as quickly as it appeared, as he returns to studying his hands. I nod slowly, buying time. I'll need to check my accounts, I say, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounds. Make sure everything is accessible. Again. Barbara smiles triumphantly at Mom. See? I told you she'd understand. Family first, right, Aspen? Family first. How many times have they used those words to empty my bank account, to consume my weekends, to justify every sacrifice they've demanded? But as I sit at this familiar table, feeling the weight of their expectations, I realize something has shifted inside me. The money they want represents more than just dollars. It's my freedom. My future. The life I've been too afraid to claim. And for the first time, I'm not sure I'm willing to give it up. 2 days later, on Tuesday at my apartment, the memory of my 18th birthday resurfaces as I sit at my kitchen table, staring at the checkbook balanced precariously on my knee. My phone screen glows with Mom's latest text. Don't forget your contribution this month. Rent's due Friday. Instead of a birthday cake that day, Mom had slid a handwritten invoice across our kitchen table. Now that you're an adult, she'd said, her lips curving into what passed for a smile. It's time you contributed to the household expenses. Dad had examined his coffee mug while Barbara smirked from behind her textbook. I'd stared at the number $250, nearly half my part-time paycheck from the grocery store. When I asked if this meant I could skip my weekend shifts helping at Mom's failing boutique, her eyes had hardened. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been financially ruined in the first place. 10 years later, that contribution has grown to $350 monthly, not counting the emergencies that seem to arise whenever my bank account shows signs of health. My apartment keys jangle against the worn laminate of my kitchen table. The place is tiny, a converted garage I share with a nursing student I barely see. The commute to work takes an hour each way, but the rent is cheap enough that I can save a little each month, even after Mom's payments. I open my journal, the pages soft from handling. 10 years of entries chronicle the same pattern: excitement when my paycheck arrives, calculations of how much I can squirrel away, and then the inevitable call or text from Mom demanding money for some crisis. March 4th. First raise at work. An extra $175 a month. Maybe I can finally save for a decent car. March 7th. Mom called. Barbara needs dental work. There goes my car fund. August 15th. 5 years of saving. $25,000 hidden away. Nobody knows but me. The last entry makes my chest tighten with both pride and fear. 5 years of double shifts at the administrative job I was lucky to land after community college. 5 years of weekend work at Rosie's Diner, serving breakfast to truckers and local families. 5 years of saying, I can't afford it, to coworkers' invitations, of calculating the cost of every grocery item, of patching clothes instead of replacing them. 5 years of careful deception, letting Mom believe I'm barely scraping by. My phone lights up with another text. Barbara this time. Mom says you're being difficult about the monthly contribution. After everything they've done for you? I set the phone down without answering. Barbara learned early to align herself with Mom. The golden child was named for our grandmother, while I was carelessly named after the Colorado town where Mom went into premature labor during a business trip. We couldn't think of anything else. Mom had explained when I asked about my name as a child. We were too stressed with the medical bills. The unspoken addition, the medical bills you caused. The phone buzzes again. Dad this time, a rare text. Your mother's upset. Can you just send the money? I close my eyes, remembering the countless times Dad has witnessed Mom's financial demands without intervening. His weakness is its own form of cruelty. Aspen, you home? My neighbor Ryan's voice carries through the thin door, followed by a gentle knock. I tuck the journal away before opening the door. Ryan stands there with a plate of cookies, steam still rising from them. Made too many, he says with a shrug that doesn't quite hide his concern. He's noticed the shadows under my eyes, the extra shifts. Thanks. I take the plate, struck again by the strangeness of genuine kindness with no strings attached. Ryan's family calls him every Sunday, but just to check in, not to demand money or favors. I've overheard his warm conversations through our shared wall, so different from the tense negotiations that constitute my family communications. You okay? He asks, lingering in the doorway. You look tired. Before I can answer, my phone rings. It's Diane from the office, the older woman who trained me when I first started, and now treats me with a maternal concern that still feels foreign. I should take this, I tell Ryan. He nods and leaves with a small wave. Aspen? It's Diane. Her voice carries its usual warmth. I noticed you've been working through lunch again. I hope you are okay. You don't look okay at all. Something catches in my throat. These small kindnesses, Ryan's cookies, Diane's concern, highlight the stark difference between how my family treats me and how the rest of the world does. I think about the $25,000 sitting in my savings account. The money represents more than just dollars. It's 5 years of sacrifice, yes, but also 5 years of hope. Hope for something more than this endless cycle of obligation and guilt. Mom's latest demand for the entire amount isn't just about money, it's about control. About keeping me tethered to the role of family scapegoat. My journal lies on the table, filled with years of entries that document my gradual erosion. But the most recent page remains blank, waiting for a new chapter. For the first time, I consider writing something different. Next day, on Wednesday, I slip my time-off request across Diane's desk, holding my breath. My supervisor glances up from her computer, reading glasses perched on the end of her nose. A personal day? You haven't taken one in? She taps at her keyboard, eyebrows rising. 2 years? Good heavens, Aspen. I know. I fidget with my cardigan sleeve. Is it okay? I wouldn't ask if... Take 2. Diane signs the form with a flourish. Doctor's appointment? Something like that, I murmured, not quite meeting her eyes. Whatever it is, I hope it brings you some peace. She hands back the approved form, her expression softening. You look like you could use it. Peace. What a foreign concept. Later that day, I sat in the public library, 3 towns over, hunched over a borrowed computer. No family members would think to look for me here. The fluorescent lights hum overhead as I methodically research apartments in Bellingham, a city nearly 1,500 miles and 3 states away from everything I've ever known. Something unfamiliar flutters in my chest as I scroll through listings. Hope, maybe, or terror disguised as excitement. I write down the contact information for 3 properties within my budget. The realization that I can afford my own place, a real place, not the cramped room I share with 2 other women, still feels like a revelation. 5 years of double shifts and saying no to every small luxury has built a nest egg my family would devour in an instant if I let them. Not this time. The following day, on Thursday, I slipped into Riverdale Credit Union, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap borrowed from Ryan, my neighbor. Inside, a young banker named Tess helps me open an account with my ID and a cashier's check for half my savings. No family member as a joint owner. No shared access. Just mine. Your signature looks different here than on your ID. Tess comments, sliding the paperwork back. I'm working on that, I say, and realize I mean it in more ways than one. That weekend, while Mom drags Dad and Barbara to Aunt Joanne's baby shower, I use my emergency key to enter their house. I still did not send them money for rent. The familiar scent of Mom's gardenia candles wraps around me like an accusation as I slip upstairs to the attic. My throat tightens when I spot the faded blue bin labeled Aspen Documents in Dad's careful handwriting. Inside lies the paper trail of my existence: birth certificate, social security card, vaccination records, high school diploma. I'd asked for these dozens of times over the years. They're safer here, Mom always insisted. You'd just lose them. I clutch the folder to my chest, surprised by how light it feels, the entire official record of my 28 years on Earth, weighing less than a sandwich. That evening, I sat on a park bench with a spiral notebook, watching ducks glide across the pond. The sun warms my face as I begin a list titled, Things I Have Survived. My pen moves steadily across the page. Mom's coldness, Barbara's cruelty, Dad's silence. The constant draining of my bank account. The subtle reminders that I wasn't wanted. The not-so-subtle reminders that I owed them for the inconvenience of my existence. When I reach the bottom of the page, I stare at the final item, being called a mistake my entire life. I tear out the page and fold it carefully into my wallet. Whatever happens next, I've already endured the worst they could do to me. The thought settles in my chest like a stone, solid and strangely comforting. I am not a mistake, I whisper to the ducks. One of them quacks back, and I find myself smiling, actually smiling for what feels like the first time in years. Sunday dinner arrives with its usual parade of passive-aggressive comments and loaded silences. I take my customary seat at the kitchen table, the same table where they ambushed me with their demand for my savings. Mom serves pot roast, her specialty, saved for when she wants something. So, she says, slicing the meat with surgical precision, have you made a decision about our family venture? I take a small bite, chewing slowly. I'm still considering it. Barbara snorts. What's there to consider? It's a no-brainer. I'd like to see the business plan, I say, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounds. The market analysis, projected returns, that sort of thing. Mom's knife clatters against her plate. We don't need all that paperwork. This is family, not some corporate deal. Actually, Barbara interjects, leaning forward, we were thinking we could simplify things. We could become signatories on your accounts, just to help manage everything more efficiently. Dad clears his throat. Maybe we should give Aspen time to think about it. She's had plenty of time, Mom snaps. The opportunity won't wait forever. I set down my fork. What exactly is this opportunity? Specifically. The silence that follows confirms what I already knew. There is no business plan, no investment opportunity, just another attempt to drain my resources. We're still finalizing details. Barbara finally says, her voice tight, I see. I take another bite, feeling something new rising within me. Not anger exactly, something calmer, steadier. The knowledge that I'm already gone. The next day, on Monday, Diane calls me into her office. My heart sinks. Certain someone has discovered my plans. I have good news, she says instead, sliding a folder across her desk. That branch transfer you inquired about? Bellingham has an opening starting next month. I put in a recommendation. I stare at her, speechless. Don't look so shocked, she says, smiling. You're one of our best. They'd be lucky to have you. Thank you, I managed. I don't know what to say. Say you'll send a postcard, and that you'll stop letting people take advantage of your good nature. That evening, Ryan helps me sort through my meager possessions in our shared apartment. I can drive your stuff up when you're ready, he offers, folding a sweater with surprising care. My band has a gig in Portland that weekend anyway. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. I know, he grins, but friends help friends escape toxic situations. Friends. The word feels unfamiliar but welcome. In my bedroom, I carefully select a few mementos worth taking. Grandma Cox's thimble collection, the watercolor I painted in high school that won 3rd place at the county fair, and the snow globe Dad brought me from his one business trip to Chicago. Everything else, the accumulated clutter of a life spent trying to be invisible, I sort into bags for donation. On my laptop, I sign the lease agreement for a tiny but sun-filled studio apartment in Bellingham, effective immediately. The landlord seemed confused when I offered 3 months' rent in advance, but I need the security of knowing it's mine, waiting for me. That same night, I purchased a one-way plane ticket for the day of my family's business meeting. As I click, confirm, Aunt Margaret calls. Are you sure about this? She asks, her voice crackling over the line. I've never been more sure of anything. I won't tell them where you've gone, she promises, but they'll figure it out eventually. By then, I'll be strong enough to handle it. I hang up and open my closet, where a small gift bag sits prepared. Inside lies a silk scarf burgundy, not navy blue that I bought with my first paycheck, along with a sealed letter explaining everything I've never had the courage to say. Some goodbyes are better left on paper. A week later, on Saturday night, I arrived at my parents' house with a small gift bag dangling from my fingertips. The silk scarf inside cost 3 days' worth of lunch money, but some things are worth the sacrifice. My heart hammers against my ribs as I step onto the familiar porch. Behind this door waits the family that shaped me, or rather, misshapen me into the person I've been for 28 years, the person I'm leaving behind tonight. Barbara opens the door before I can knock, her eyes narrowing at the gift bag. What's that? She asks, blocking the entrance. Just a little something, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. Can I come in? She studies me for a moment too long, like she's trying to decode something in my expression. Whatever she sees must not alarm her because she steps aside with a shrug. Mom's in one of her moods, she whispers as I pass. In the dining room, Mom fusses with the tablecloth while Dad silently places silverware beside each plate. The normalcy of the scene almost breaks my resolve. Almost. There she is, Mom says without looking up. You're late. Traffic, I lie, though I've been sitting in my car around the corner for 20 minutes, practicing my breathing. Dinner crawls by in painful small talk. Mrs. Peterson's hip replacement, the weather forecast, Barbara's new promotion. I nod and smile at all the right moments, while my gift bag sits beside my chair, waiting. Well, Mom says finally, pushing her plate away with an impatient sigh. Let's get to business matters, shall we? Dad collects the dishes with the mechanical movements of a man who checked out of this family dynamic years ago. Only his trembling hands betray any emotion. Mom produces a folder from beneath her chair and slides several papers across the table. We've decided the simplest approach is for you to sign these, she says, tapping a pen against the documents. Power of attorney. That way we can handle all the financial details without bothering you. Helping a little sister who isn't good with money, Barbara adds with a practiced smile. You've always been better with following instructions than making decisions. I stare at the paperwork. My name appears throughout the document, but every benefit, every protection runs toward them. Family takes care of family. Mom continues, her voice hardening. After everything we've done for you, everything we've sacrificed because of you, this is the least you can do. Dad returns from the kitchen, his eyes downcast as he takes his seat. The silence stretches between us, thick with expectation. You're right, I say finally, reaching for the gift bag beside my chair. I've thought about everything you've said. Mom and Barbara exchange triumphant glances. Dad's shoulders slump further. And I've decided, I continue, placing the bag in the center of the table, To give you something more valuable than money. Mom blinks, confused. What are you talking about? Open it, I say softly. With impatient fingers, Mom pulls out the elegant burgundy scarf, her favorite color, and then the sealed envelope beneath it. Her name is written across the front in my neatest handwriting. What is this? She demands. But her voice has lost its authority. My goodbye, I answered simply, rising from my chair. I know the truth now. About why you call me the mistake. About the business deal you missed. About everything. Barbara's mouth falls open. Aunt Margaret, she hisses. That interfering. I forgive you, I continue, the words flowing easier than I expected. And I'm leaving. Tonight. There's nothing more to discuss. I turn toward the door, feeling strangely weightless. Behind me, the sound of tearing paper as Mom opens the envelope. You can't just... Barbara starts. I already have. I interrupt, not turning back. My things are gone. My apartment is empty. My new job starts next week. Dad's chair scrapes against the floor. When I glance back, his eyes meet mine directly for the first time in years. Be safe, he whispers. Outside, the cool evening air fills my lungs. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzes in my pocket. Mom calling already. It will ring again, and again. For days, probably. Barbara's texts will come next. Mom's having a breakdown. How could you do this to us? After everything we've done for you. I drove away from the only home I've known, watching it shrink in my rearview mirror until it disappears completely. At the airport, I check in for my flight, then power off my old phone for the last time. Tomorrow, I'll turn on my new one. Tomorrow I'll wake up in my own place, in a city where nobody knows me as anyone's mistake. But tonight, I board a plane simply as Aspen. Not a daughter, not a sister, not a mistake. Just me. 2 days after I left, my mother and sister visited my old apartment. Lisa pounds on the door of my apartment, her knuckles turning white with each strike. Behind her, Barbara paces the narrow hallway, phone pressed to her ear. Aspen Marie Cox, open this door right now. The landlord stands a few feet back, arms folded across his chest. Ladies, I told you. She moved out 3 days ago. Paid her final month and left the keys. Barbara ends her call, frustration tightening her features. Her phone's still going straight to voicemail. What do you mean she moved? Lisa spins toward the landlord. This is her apartment. Where would she go? He shrugs. Not my business where tenants go. But she seemed happy. Happier than I'd seen her in the 2 years she lived here. Lisa pushes past him into the now empty apartment. The faded beige walls bear rectangular patches where my few pictures once hung. The closet stands open, empty hangers dangling like forgotten promises. Her stuff is gone, Barbara says, stating the obvious as she always has. Lisa storms to the kitchen, yanking open drawers. Her bank statements. She always kept them in the kitchen drawer. The landlord clears his throat. I need to lock up now. The new tenant arrives tomorrow. This is a family emergency, Lisa snaps. Your emergency. He takes back his key. Not mine. In the parking lot, Barbara frantically taps at her phone. The bank won't give me any information. Says I'm not authorized on her accounts. Lisa's face darkens with an anger I've seen countless times. But for once, I'm not there to absorb it. She couldn't have gotten far. Not with her salary. Call her work. Later that evening, Barbara's voice trembles on the other end of my mother's speakerphone. She transferred to another branch. In Montana. They wouldn't tell me anything else because I'm not listed as her emergency contact. Montana? Lisa's voice rises to that pitch that always made me flinch. Who does she know in Montana? No one, my father says quietly. It's the first thing he's contributed to their frantic search. That's probably why she chose it. That. 3 states away, I wake to sunlight streaming through blinds I chose myself. My new apartment is small, a studio with a kitchenette and bathroom, barely big enough to turn around in, but every inch belongs to me. I roll onto my side, watching dawn paint the mountain peaks visible through my window. This view costs me an extra $70 a month, but each morning it reminds me why I'm here. I chose this. I chose me. My phone buzzes with a calendar alert. First day. The familiar flutter of anxiety rises in my stomach, but it's different now, anticipation rather than dread. The local branch office looks almost identical to my old one, but I walk through the door with my shoulders back, my steps sure. You must be Aspen. A woman with silver-streaked hair says, extending her hand. Diane called me about you. Said you're one of the best she's worked with. Thank you for the opportunity, I reply, my voice steady in a way it never was during family dinners. At lunch, I walk to the coffee shop across the street. The barista smiles, asking if I want my usual before realizing I'm new. I order a vanilla latte without mentally calculating if I can afford it, without hearing my mother's voice listing all the things that money could have bought for the family instead. I take my first sip, the warmth spreading through my chest, and realize this is what freedom tastes like. 3 months pass in a blur of new routines and quiet evenings that belong only to me. Then my work phone rings with an unfamiliar number. Aspen Cox speaking. A beat of silence, then, Aspen? My mother's voice, thinner than I remember. Thank God. We've been trying to reach you for months. My hand tightens around the receiver. How did you get this number? That doesn't matter. Her tone shifts, filling with the tremulous urgency I know so well. Your father's not well. His heart. The doctors say he needs surgery, and the insurance won't cover it all. We need you to come home. The old guilt rises like bile in my throat, but something new rises with it clarity. I'm sorry to hear about Dad, I say, meaning it, but I can't come home. Can't or won't. Her voice hardens. After everything we've done for you. I end the call, my hand shaking but resolute. That night, I opened my email to find a message from Barbara with the subject line, Family Obligations. Inside, veiled threats about legal remedies and filial responsibility laws meant to frighten me back into compliance. My phone rings Aunt Margaret's number. They're planning to visit, she says without preamble. Lisa found your address through that friend of yours from the diner. They're talking about driving out next weekend. Cold washes over me, but I don't panic. Instead, I make a list. Wednesday morning finds me sitting across from Patricia Wells, a lawyer with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. They have no legal claim to your money, she confirms after hearing my story. A cease and desist letter should be sufficient, but we can pursue a restraining order if needed. That afternoon, I met with HR. I need to document a potential harassment situation, I explain, laying out the facts without emotion. My family may attempt to contact me here. The HR manager nods, making notes. We take employee safety seriously. I'll alert security and make sure your direct line is changed. That evening, I called Aunt Margaret. I love you, I tell her. But I need you to understand something. I'm not hiding. I'm standing my ground. If they come here, they'll be met with legal consequences. Silence stretches between us before she says, You sound different. I am different. 2 days later, a thick envelope arrived containing my mother's handwriting. Inside, I find a tear-stained letter full of accusations and pleas. At the bottom, in handwriting I've never seen such defeat. I don't know who you are anymore. I fold the letter carefully and place it in a box labeled Before. Then I open my window to the mountain air and breathe deeply. She's right. She doesn't know who I am anymore. Neither did I, until now. I wake to golden light filtering through curtains I chose myself. The soft cotton sheets purchased without calculating if I could afford them wrap around me like a promise kept. My apartment isn't large, but every corner reflects a choice I made. The watercolor painting of mountains above my reading chair, the collection of succulents thriving on my windowsill, the bookshelf filled with volumes I no longer have to hide. 1 year, the calendar on my wall confirms what my heart already knows. 1 year since I walked away from everything familiar into this life that finally feels like mine. My phone buzzes with birthday messages. Not the obligatory acknowledgments from family who resented my existence, but genuine wishes from people who simply enjoy my company. Diane from work, Ryan, who helped me move. The friends from my pottery class who plan to take me to dinner tonight. Looking forward to celebrating you, texts Marissa, my closest friend in this new city. No hidden agenda. No subtle dig about what I could contribute to the celebration. Just pure, uncomplicated affection. I shower and dress for work, choosing a burgundy blouse that would have been deemed too attention-seeking in my previous life. My reflection shows a woman who stands straight, whose eyes meet her own gaze without flinching. At the office, a small envelope waits on my desk. Congratulations on your promotion, says the card inside, signed by the entire department. Your attention to detail and initiative have been invaluable. My eyes burn with unexpected tears. Not just for the salary increase that will further secure my independence, but for the recognition of value that has nothing to do with what I can give away. That evening, surrounded by friends at a small restaurant, I blew out candles on a cake nobody expected me to pay for. Later, alone in my apartment, I open my journal and write, "Today I turned 29. My savings account topped $10,000, money that's truly mine. I sleep through the night now." The nightmares about debt collectors and family emergencies have mostly stopped. Dr. Andrews says healing isn't linear, but I can feel the difference. I'm learning that boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary. Every Thursday, I sit across from Dr. Andrews in her calm office, untangling the knots of my childhood. Sometimes I leave drained, sometimes lighter, always clearer. "You can acknowledge the hurt without continuing to live from it," she told me last week. "Your mother named you after a place she was passing through, but you've turned that name into something with roots and strength." On Saturdays, I volunteer at a community garden. My hands in the soil connect me to something larger than myself, something growing and alive, like me. Last month, I accepted a dinner invitation from Michael, an accountant I met through the garden. Our conversation flowed without the familiar undercurrent of fear. When he asked about my family, I told him the truth, not everything, but enough. He didn't run, he just listened. The mail brings sporadic reminders of my past. Mother's Christmas card arrived without a note, just her name signed with a flourish. Barbara sends occasional texts about family dramas, fishing for responses I no longer feel compelled to provide. Dad's letters come monthly, tentative bridges I cross with careful steps. I answer with brief, kind notes that maintain distance without cruelty. Yesterday brought something unexpected, a letter from my 19-year-old cousin Jessie. "Aunt Lisa says you abandoned the family," she wrote. "But something about how they talk about you doesn't sound right. I'm working 2 jobs while going to school, and Mom keeps saying I owe her for raising me. I don't know what to do." My hands trembled as I dialed her number. For an hour, I listened to her story so familiar it could have been my own. "You're not crazy," I told her. "And you're not alone." Later, looking at the framed quote on my wall, some call it a mistake. I call it my beginning. I realized something profound. The mistake of my existence had become someone else's lifeline. This morning, on my birthday, I stood at my window watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of promise. 2 years ago, I couldn't imagine this life. Now, I can't imagine returning to that one. I touch the frame holding my favorite quote and speak the truth I've finally embraced. The family you're born into may shape your start, but the family you choose determines your future.